So we have gotten as far as drawing our project and putting our wash of the sky on it. I'm going to actually take you guys from start to finish for this project here that we're going to be doing. So I'm going to go step by step. Now the colors that you're going to need for our version of Colors of Snow are going to be the blue, cobalt, your basic black, that's till the very end, some purple, violet, burnt umber, and the viridian. We're going to start with the blue. I have pre-mixed it over here so that we don't have to fumble around. I'm going to set this aside. You see that okay? Okay. So this is what our goal is. Something like this. Yours will not look exactly like this. I've done about 12 of those, and none of them have looked exactly like that. So we're going to start with this. You're going to need a pencil to begin with. You won't need an eraser because, well, you can use an eraser. And we're going to sketch a design that basically, we talked about this in class. You want to mark your halfway points on the side. So you want to put a line on your right side, a line on your left, and you want your line ending for this particular painting, you want it below that middle line. And for the right side, you want it above the middle line. It's going to just create some interest, and you'll see that when we get going. Because you don't want to end your line or begin it smack in the middle of any painting, and you don't want your focal point to be smack in the middle. If you have a purpose for it, then that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of times, you really want to create some more interest. So you want to offside it. Excuse me. Oh, that cold is coming on. Give me some LLP. So, I have sketched out, if you can even see, I'm not sure. I've sketched out a mountain. I've gone from the bottom left to right here. I'm going to sketch out the top mountain that's going to be behind. I'm going to draw it and stop about here, not in the center, over here. I've only drawn one line from my left, my center, and my crooked, far right birch tree. Because when you get going, you're not going to need, I did not bring scissors, but let me show you how you can create your own little tool for making a birch tree. You only need one side because you just need to use it as a guide. So I'm going to create a little piece of cardstock. This is just your basic 3x5 card. I think that's too big, so I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to show you two things. The reason we did our card in class, and for you teachers if you're seeing this, the card is a really good idea because it's disposable. So what you're going to do, there's usually some darker or color on the bottom. You never want to shake your masking fluid. We're going to use some masking fluid. I really like Winsor & Newton. It works really well for me. One thing you need to make sure that you do is to put not so much a light coat on there, because if you do, let's see, where is it? Can you see this in the camera? Because what will happen if you use a lighter coat, I don't know if you can tell this or not, but there's a little blue right here. And that's because I got the masking fluid on here really light. And I should have done it more heavily so that when I rubbed it off, it was white like this, but it's thin so you can see the sky. But that's not like totally important. But yeah, that's it. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. We're back. Sorry about that. I dropped my little tool. One thing about masking fluid I've already told you guys is it dries pretty quickly. You get this funky stuff. So you want to work quickly. This is really thin cardstock. Maybe you don't want to use a 3x5 card. But all you're going to do is you're going to dip it in. You probably can't see that. You're going to dip it in. You're going to start it at the base where you want to go. And you're just going to drag it. If it didn't get all the way to the top, which this did, you just go one more time. Get a little more. you drag it. And this is really, really nice because that's all you have to do. Now I do want to show you that it is possible. I don't need to put that away. I'm going to use a number 8 little budget-friendly crafts brush. I'm going to dip it in some soapy water, get it nice and soapy, the excess off, squish it out or rub it off in my little dedicated art rag. Now it's prepped. I'm going to stick it in here. It helps it not stick forever to the brush. And you can also use a dedicated brush if you don't want to dedicate your brush and you want to take the risk. Then you can do it this way too. You can use the corner of your paper or a nice brush. You're going to want to create some designs. Look at some pictures of birch trees. Kind of get an idea of how the branches go up and down. Now, I think that's my limit on trying to save my brush. So I'm going to go back to my card and I'm going to show you. You just dip it in here and then you're going to use the corner to drag some branches. That's it. These are going to become your snow top branches. So just kind of freehand it, and you can put share some of this, put some nubs in here, because that's what they have, are nubs. Now, that's all you do. That's it. So you can toss your card. We're done with the masking fluid. That is step 1 and 2. Draw and do your masking fluid. Now, one of the things we talked about before, the magic of preparation, one of the things we talked about before are how to do a wash. So we did this in class where you're going to take your paper. You're going to make sure that you have a nice, I'm going to get my brush nice and wet. Can you see these cups in the camera? These two? Okay. Now we're going to mix. You always want to make sure your paint is thoroughly mixed. I mixed the color I wanted ahead of time. But see how soupy and puddly this is? It's awesome. I'm going to show you 2 things while the maskoid dries, the masking fluid. Actually, this one is dry. But just to make sure, I wanted to do the other one first. So it's really simple. Remember how we puddle? And as long as there's a puddle, you're going to get this really nice gradient feature. So as long as you're puddling, see how I'm running out of puddle? As long as you're puddling, this is all good. And then when you get to the bottom, you can use your brush. I'm going to dab it out on my towel. One thing that's really nice about natural hair brushes is they tend to grab. I can even touch this and it doesn't spot like a synthetic brush does. So I can actually do this and it's friendlier. So see how that's nice and flat. And one of the things we're going to do on this painting that's new from what we did in our class is I'm actually going to get a separate brush. This one happens to be a number 2. I'm going to get it wet and I'm just going to put a little bit of water right here. And the reason is it's going to help us create some snow-capped mountains, and this is the effect you're going to get. You're going to go just below it and you're going to still do that puddly idea, right? And this is going to give you such a nice gradient feature, because remember, sky is darker at the top. So why am I putting it at the bottom? I'm glad you asked. After we get the puddle, I will show you. So this actually becomes our sky on our painting. So I don't know if you can tell, but our painting is lighter at the bottom, darker at the top. And that's what we've just created. So you can do it either way, but this one comes out really cool. So that's what we're going to be doing, just a little quickie. This one is the true gradient way, just doing the puddling. So now I'm going to show you how we do that, and we're going to take a water brush. This is just water, and all I'm doing is I'm just spreading some water, just clean water, all along the line. I don't want to drag too hard because remember, we're not using the best of paper. We're using budget-friendly paper, and it's not always the nicest. So with this particular kind of watercolor paper, Artist Loft, it's not always the best. So now we've already done the masking fluid, right? So now I'm going just under the water that I've created. Remember, see, we still have a puddle. I am dragging it to eventually make a straight line because nature, the sea, the water wants to be level. And so does the sky. Now, I'm going to have you tip your paper this way. Can anyone tell me why? See if anyone answers in my class. I'm going to keep dragging the puddle this way. And then, after I dry off the tips of my brush, remember, we can grab some of that puddle and the brush will soak it up. Now, we can leave some of this shadow because, if you think about it, the sun's coming in from this way, or setting from that way in our case, and this would create a natural shadow under and on the right of our painting. So once we turn it upside down, or upside right, it's a natural shadow. That's it. So now we've created this nice gradient. I'm going to rinse my brush. And we're going to, because we need this to dry before we can do our next step, magic of preparation again, we are ready for the front hill. Now the front hill is going to be straight violet purple. So I've pre-mixed that. All it is violet purple. I've taken the color that I've mixed, and I'm really happy with my sample product. So what you do is you take a clean card that is really, really light. I think I have extra water on my brush. Let's try this color. Oh, much better. We're going to tap off the extra, and we're going to see how close this is to the painting. That's pretty darn close. So we're going to go with that. That's our sample color. And again, to create with the clean water, again, to hopefully make it look like we have a lighter color at the top with the snow-capped mountains. I'm just spreading it, and then I'm just thinning it out. I'm going to take the purple, and I'm going to come really close to the edge of that water, and then I'm going to just keep going. Puddle, puddle, puddle. Why? Because we don't want all those streaks. This is an exercise in puddling. So we're going to get some texture created with our next step. So, ta-da! Can you see how it's lighter up here? Now this is a little, because my water is so wet, look how that blends right in. And I'm tilting it this way for the effect of this being closer. I want it to be lighter up here because that's where the snow mostly is. Okay, so now here's the fun part. We're going to use basic table salt. You can use all kinds of salt, but because our painting is really small, we're going to use basic table salt, and I'm going to drop it from way up high Can you see how I pinched it? And I'm just sprinkling it on here. Now what's really, you don't want to pour it on because you'll get a big glop. Probably should have showed you a sample of that. So this is what it looks like. And what's going to happen is this. I just love this. So what you see happening is, the wetter your paper is, where the paint is, the bigger, the larger the little splotches are. And the further away, they're tinier because the paper was dry. What's really cool about that effect, that's why we drip it this way, is all the moisture goes here. This creates that dimensional effect so that it looks like it's further away. Now once it's dry, with a clean hand, you're just going to brush off that extra salt and prep your paper for the back hill. Now you want this back hill to be just a little bit darker. Again, I'm going to take the water brush because I really like the effect. Now I'm going to be really careful, which I wasn't. Did you see that water drop? I wasn't careful. So we may see something different happen here. You never know what's going to happen. So now I'm just going to rub it in. But that particular one got a little bit low. And if I had, I can use this. Actually, I may take something dry and mop that up. We'll see if that happens, but I doubt it. Once your paper is wet, your paper is wet. So what that's going to help us with is our back color. And I've already mixed in the blue of the sky, the purple of the front, and I've mixed the two of those in so that they're kind of a purpley blue. Kind of a periwinkle, but I went darker purple because I didn't want it to be blue. The sky's blue. So see what's happening is, it's still going to show us like we have a snow-capped mountain. We'll see how this goes here. You want it a little darker down here because you want that dimension. And again, what do you want? You want it wet. So you want to move fast. That's why we have this big puddle of paint. You see that? We're not going to get any marks because our paint is so wet. So now what's really cool is it's all puddled down here. I can sop some of that up. But what I want to happen, that just helps with the coverage. What I want to happen, okay, I've never painted and tried to teach a class before, so this is interesting. And this is all because our class was canceled because of the women's retreat. Again, this is a natural natural haired paintbrush. I am picking up paint and then dabbing it on my clean-ish cloth. You see what's happening? It's picking it up. But I have to keep touching the washcloth because you have to get the excess paint off. And your paintbrush will take on a funny shape when you do this, but that's all fixable. Then I like to make it travel back down to this corner because that also creates a dimension. And then you just lay it flat and it's gonna go where it's gonna go. Rinse your brush. Set it down. Now what's going to happen is we're going to do salt again. You don't want to pour it, you want to pinch it. And remember how we talked about watercolor having a mind of its own? Let's drop it from real up high because you don't want it to clump. I can show you what clumping looks like. Put it back in, paint outside, it doesn't matter if you spill. So now what's happening is the salt is drawing in, it's sucking in the color, and that's how you get this really cool effect right here. Now I have somebody who taught a hands-on art class I took way back in 2002. Her name was Brigitte Snodgrass, and she taught a project very similar to this, but instead she put the salt in the sky. and it made a really nice, imagine this is your sky and it looks like it's snowing. But I haven't been able to reach her to know if I can teach her class exactly. So I made up my own. So we're gonna let this dry. Da, 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 da. It's dry. Now look at this. This is what we've done so far. And so because it was wetter in these areas, it's bigger. But see how, again, it's larger and then smaller, and then larger and smaller. This could actually be smaller like this, but let's just freeform it. So now we have snow-capped mountains, snow-capped hills. We have the mottleness that gives us the feeling like it's all snowy and the light's hitting it in different ways. We have our washed sky. Now, remember that we put the masking fluid on here. There's two ways to remove the masking fluid. And one is with this little gummy eraser, not eraser, it's a gummy thing that's actually used for liquid paper or paper cement. Not liquid paper. Rubber cement or paper cement, both. You don't want to rub it like it's an eraser, but when it helps you pick it up. And so it's going to help pick it up. Look at that. Awesome. Discard that, not in your yard because you don't want a squirrel to eat it. You just help, this thing just helps you grab it and pick it up because there's a lot of little intricate areas. And it's okay to leave the previous masking fluid on there. It actually helps to grab the rest of it. Now, I don't have enough of these to go around in our classroom. So another way to do it is everybody's washed their hands, right? Let's pretend I have. And let me just double check. Nope, I don't feel it. So see right here where the sky has gone over? This is a thin coating. Let's see if it actually worked. Oh, it did. Okay, I'm so happy. So see now, don't think about not rubbing your paper so much as just rubbing the texture of the masking fluid. You'll get the hang of it. If you boo-boo, then we will just make do and paint over that and make it into a bird or a nest or something. This one still has the salt on it, so we're going to get the salt off. That's it. So now we've removed the masking fluid, and what I want to show you next, it doesn't matter that there's a little gap right here, but what I want to show you next, apparently I have two ready to go. I'm going to do this one because if I mess up, I don't like this one as much. So the other thing you want is a gift card. I'm not going to advertise this company, but a gift card. Oh, maybe I should. They gave me all these. Thank you, JCPenney, for sponsoring this project and this step of this project. So what I've done is I have mixed what I think is going to be a nice brown color for our birch tree bark. We looked at the birch trees last class. They're so gorgeous. I want to show you what the color is before we get started. Two reasons. I don't know if you can see this, it's dried out. So it just needs a little more water. So see all the browns and oranges and blacks in here? That's just what came out of the tube. All the colors start separating. That's the other really awesome thing about adding salt, is you start seeing the different colors in what makes up paint. So let's see if we like this. It's pretty dark, but I really like the tone. So then I'm gonna rinse the brush. Remember we have rinse water and wash water? I probably just mixed those up, but I did not put my paintbrush in my coffee or my tea. So that's success. So we're going to, we did this in class last week. Just kind of mix up your paint. You're gonna get it nice and wet. Tap, 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 tap. And then you're going to press the card down and scrape it. Now, that's your birch tree right there. And that, in my opinion, is a beautiful, beautiful color for this. Remember we practiced our birch trees in class last week? Now, last week we did the left and the right side. But one of the things I found is, let me show you. In doing the left and the right side, this is a beautiful tree. But if you only do the right side, you get that illusion of that feeling that that sun or the light of the evening day is on the left side. So it's up to you. You can do both. Totally fine with me. But for our class and class purposes, and maybe even less frustration, we're going to just do one side. So hopefully you can see this. I have paint just on the edge. Let me see if I can crowd myself so you can see this better. Tap, 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 tap. Look for bubbles. Bubbles actually can make a really cool effect. Line it, scrape it. Ta-da! Maybe too much paint. This is totally fine. Every single time you lay this down, it's a different look. Now, if you went and looked at your birch trees in your backyard, in your front yard, on vacation in Idaho, where I saw mine most recently, they are not all the same. Of course, I think the last few attempts at this were absolutely gorgeous. Oh, a little masking fluid. You can go sit over there. Da! Do you see how it just went little flick? So this is what we have. This is the first go. Every time you do this again, you don't want to do one tree, the whole tree. You want to, okay, this one I want to do a little drier. I'm going to take my finger and just wipe the front off, not the underneath, just the front. I'm going to see if we can get a flicky. See that? Now I have some detail in that one. So I'm going to mix my paint around, put it on here again, flick. What this is going to do, flick. That one didn't flick very much. Oh yeah, I've tried to go over it again. It doesn't work. So dip your paint again and then do it. See how I got it on the sky? Whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Go to the second tree, flick. Sometimes it just doesn't show as much. You can go over it again. What I like about doing a couple coats, a couple goes, is, oh, look at my samples, is you get different colors. That one strangely looks exactly the same as the first one. Okay, so that's 2 coats. That's your birch tree. If you want, I'm going to show you what both sides looks like in case you forget from last class. You just go on the other side, flick it the back way. The back way, flick it from the other side. Now what this does, oopsie, I almost went into the snow. What this does that's really cool is it defines the left side, and really, I'm going to show you the two together. It starts to make your tree, sorry for the obnoxious, look round. I'm going to do a little bit more over here. Ta-da! So, in comparison, you have one side and you have both sides. So, this, and it's going to look totally different once it dries. So it's up to you. Now, I'm not really good with grass, but the last step I decided to create, oh, wash off your card. So hard, just do that. Ta-da! So, well, that's another one I did. Let's put that here. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, before I forget, where's my tiny little brush? Squirrel, get my brush. I've lost my brush. Okay, well, if I had my fine brush, I would tell you to take that fine brush. We're gonna borrow this one since I can't find it. I'm gonna take a flat one. And what you need to do is go under your branches. You can even go on the blue. Okay, it's a good thing I used my least favorite painting to show you this step because I would much rather use a round one. But this is a good example for if you don't have a round one, that's what you can do. Now I like to make little thingies because it, oh, I don't like this brush. I lost, my other one rolled away. So let's put a little brown under here. Freak it out. Da, da, da. So see how that starts making it look like a branch with snow on top of it. Ta-da! And when it dries, it'll be totally different. Okay, back to, oh dear, where is my round brush? My little round brush is what I need for making the grass. So I found my brush. It fell through the crack and landed on a spider web. No biggie. So we're gonna get some water. One of the things I love about watercolor is they dry. You just add water and you can use it again. But in our class, as we found out, they're not as awesome as the paints I had in art school, where I can still use them to this day. You get what you pay for. I can use mine till this day. If you take these particular watercolors, Artist Loft, you come back in, I don't know, 2-3 days, it's a big flaky mess. You can try to reconstitute it, but remember class, we tried that. It was a pain. Do the grass however you want. Sometimes I like to go down the side and slick it so it looks like it's coming from the back side, and then I'll take a few other ones and ding, 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 ding. Try not to think too much about it, or you won't like it. Trust me, because I rarely like my grass. I don't know. I'm not a grass person. Now I'm going to grab some brown. Can you see this? I'm going to grab some brown, and I'm going to come over it also. So see, you're just going to like do. Oh, guess what step I forgot? So another thing about the grass being a little brown is that's a really good thing because it's winter. Okay, I'm going to wash my brush because guess what I forgot to tell you about? I forgot to tell you about the shadow. Hello. So I'm going to use the same brush size as the card. Oh yes, let's use brown. That is not the color I meant to use. So I'm going to try a shadow color. I'm going to take the purple card that I saw that I did like, and I'm going to take this shadow color and see if I like it as a shadow. It's not very dark, is it? I'm going to add more black. See if I like this shadow. This is going to work. I don't know if you can see that very well. That's going to work. So you don't want it black. You want a little color in it, because otherwise it's going to just look black, and shadows aren't really fully black. So we're going to say the shadow's going straight across or maybe kind of tilted. Just start at the edge of your birch tree and kind of wiggle it. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. And then spin your brush to a point where it's going to end. I'm going to tip it this way because I don't like this puddling business. Shadows don't puddle. Okay. Now there's one over here too, but we've made leaves, so we're not going to go on top of these leaves yet until they're dry. So I'm going to take my brush where I think it's going to go. I'm going to come straight across. I'm going to attach it to the side of this, and I'm going to go wiggle, 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 straight like that. And when we're done and those are dry, they will look like shadows. Then there's also a shadow over here. So the problem is we don't have enough time to let that dry, but we can give it the basic idea, the illusion. Ta-da! Shadows! So when you're done, if you even like it a little bit, we are going to have frames, and we're going to be able to frame our artwork, and we're going to show it at the open house. So if you missed something, you can just replay this, or if I'm showing this in class, then we'll replay it in class or something. Anyway, that's what we're going to be doing for our next class that we don't get to have. So maybe you can get familiar with these steps and try them at home. Bye!